What's going on, guys, and welcome to Who to Sign For. Now in this series I'm giving you my recommendations on what players to sign for a specific team in career mode. But before we go on, I will say that the signings you'll see aren't designed to be realistic, and that the player ratings and potentials of the players may vary depending on what database you're using and how they perform for you during the season. Obviously you don't have to follow all the tips. This is really just a set of guidelines to give you a hand if you're stuck for ideas and want some suggestions on what players you could sign for a certain club. This is mainly aimed at those who are out there who may be new to the game. I just need a little bit of advice, or for those who are out there who just want a few recommendations on what players you could sign for a team that you may be using in career mode this year. So yes, in today's episode of Who to Sign For, we're going to stay in England and go to Chelsea. Yes, the Champions League winners of last season. Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea obviously took over from Frank Lampard last season, and what a tremendous job he did at Stamford Bridge in such a short space of time, coming in and, you know, with the way he's got Chelsea set up, they're a really fascinating team, Chelsea, to watch tactically, and also going forward as well. A really interesting team with the money they spent in the summer transfer window, of course, bringing back Romelu Lukaku from Inter Milan. Heading into your first season with Chelsea, you've got a budget of around 115 to 120 million pounds, and they're a really interesting team to use in career mode as well, because despite being a 5-star team with a very big transfer budget, their objectives are what you'd call, I wouldn't say simple, but certainly more than achievable. And if you fail to achieve them, it's probably been quite a disappointing season. So yeah, in the Champions League, obviously last season they won it, but you're not asked to retain it in the first season with Chelsea. However, they do ask you to reach the final in the first season. And in the Premier League, you don't need to win the title either. The Chelsea fans would love to win their first Premier League title in several years, but not asked to win the title, but just finish in the top 4. So second, third or fourth will do the board just fine. They have been asked to win one trophy, that is the FA Cup, but really that's definitely achievable. So they're three, I wouldn't say relaxed aims, but definitely could have been a lot stronger and a lot tougher given to you from the board. So yeah, Chelsea, big budget, 5-star team, really good side, set up in a 5-3-2/3-5-2 if you will. As we know, very defensively solid at times. So yeah, very decent team, good budget, and the objective's not too strict either. They've got some lovely kits as well, real stadium. Chelsea are just a great team to use in career mode this year. So as we take a look at the West London side and go through the squad together, you know, it's quite a few players are loaned out from Chelsea. Also, there's one player loaned in, that is, of course, Sol, coming in from Atletico Madrid. And they do have quite a few players with the deals that come the end of the year as well. Now, personally speaking, this is quite interesting here with the players that their deals up come the end of the season. You've got the captain, Cesar Azpilicueta, you've got Thiago Silva, you've got Rudiger, you've got Christensen as well. So quite a few names here. You'll definitely be thinking, do they get new deals, or do you cash in, or possibly just let them go come the end of the season? Well, I would definitely give 3 new contracts out. One is to Brooking. He's a young centre-half with some early 80s potential and definitely worth keeping around. Christensen, I would give a new deal to. He's he's 80 overall, but does have +5 growth despite his age to 85 overall. That's his potential. And also Cesar Azpilicueta as well. Now, if you want to really go hard here, you can sell the captain, but personally, he's quite versatile, can play centre-half and on the right-hand side of the 5 at the back /3 at the back system, so I'll personally keep the captain here. The other two that are quite interesting are the other 2 centre-halves, Thiago Silva and Antonio Rudiger. Now, it's totally up to you what you want to do with those centre-halves here. Silva, of course, being in his mid-30s, he's going to decline very quickly, but he is the highest rated centre-half you've got, so it's totally up to you if you want to cash in early and then bring in a younger centre-half. As for Rudiger, that's the interesting one. Now, he's 28 years old. He's 80, I think he's 83 overall, so still a really great centre-back. But if you do want to keep it semi-realistic, as we know very recently, Rudiger has expressed his desire to leave Stamford Bridge come the end of the season. A lot of Bundesliga clubs, including Bayern Munich, possibly weighing up the decision to put bids in for him. I personally would not give Rudiger a contract and opt to sell him. It's up to you. He's still a great centre-half. He'll still give you a few years of good service, but to me, if you want to keep it semi-realistic, I'd look to sell Rudiger, as we might see that happen in real life. Of course, it could be a U-turn, you never know. But as for new signings with Chelsea, again, around 115 to 120 million pounds in the transfer budget. Personally, I would look for a new left back. Now, of course, you've got Ben Chilwell, the former Leicester left back, very good indeed. But the other option is Marcos Alonso, now in his 30s, and personally, I put the Spaniard on the transfer list and look for a long-term successor. My number one target would be this guy who we got for 77.5 million. It's a lot of money, but this guy is one of the best left backs you can buy in this year's FIFA career mode, and particularly as a left wing back, this guy suits Chelsea's system absolutely perfectly. It's the Milan left back Theo Hernandez. High medium work rates, really high stamina, and when going forward, this guy is a real threat on the offensive end. He's only 23 years old, yet he's already 84 overall, and he's got 90 potential as well. This guy can become one of the best left backs, if not the best left back in the game, as the season goes by. And again, he's good enough to take Ben Chilwell's starting spot as the first choice left back. You're going to sell Marcos Alonso, the Spaniard, and Theo Hernandez will be your starting left back for all the years you're at Stamford Bridge. He is just so good, and again, particularly when going forward as well, he's more suited to that left wing back role. When going forward, his offensive threat is very severe indeed. So Hernandez was our first signing. That put our budget down to around £40 million, so lots of money getting spent there on Theo, but well worth it. We rejected 3 bids here, one for Hudson-Odoi, one for Mason Mount, one for Christensen, but did accept a bid for Lewis Baker here from Galatasaray. And again, this is the point I was making earlier with Thiago Silva. He's 36 years old, he's on 92 grand a week. You can get around 8 to 10 million for the veteran Brazilian. It's up to you what you want to do personally. If you do want to sell him because you know his decline is going to be imminent, you know he's going to go down by like 2, 3, 4 ratings possibly in the very first season, by all means, sell the vet, cash in, get a little bit of money and look to find a replacement. But I think in the first season, personally for me, what I would do is he's still so good, even at 36 years old, is I'd keep him, let him run down his contract, and then let him leave at the end of this season. Again, totally up to you there. Personally, that's what I'd do. Anyway, once you've retrained Hernandez to left wing back, by the way, definitely give him the defensive wing back development plan. Now again, Hernandez I would say is better on the offensive end than the defensive end, so once he's been retrained to left wing back, it'll only take a couple of weeks because again that's basically the position he should be playing in anyway. You can train that defensive work rate up from medium to high, and in Chelsea's system, when you've got 5 men at the back, or if you want 3 men at the back depending on what variation you're playing, you'll have no wide midfielder to cover those areas on the back line. So personally, having a player with the high defensive work rate as well as the high attacking work rate is really useful. He's got the stamina at 90 already, so he's going to bomb up and down the pitch all game long, but if he's got the high work rates on both ends, then he'll get back and track back quicker. That's vital when you've got a lack of players in the wide midfield role to provide cover. So yeah, we sold a couple of players after that. Marcos Alonso went to Lazio, and we also sold Antonio Rudiger to Borussia Dortmund for 30.1 mil as well. So those were the two sort of senior players that are on the transfer list at the start of the season. Rudiger again going for just over 30, Alonso going for about 14 and a quarter. That saw our transfer budget raised to around 88 to 93 million pounds, and I decided to reinvest that money in a new centre back for Chelsea. Now, as we know, again at the start of the season, we saw Azpilicueta having his deal up come the end of the year, Thiago Silva being 36 and his deal up come the end of the year, and Rudiger, who we just sold, having his deal up come the end of the year. You want a younger centre half here with Chelsea. You got Christensen, but he's 25 years old, 80 overall. You want someone that's younger and better than the Dane to come in and be this sort of the backline boss that's going to be part of your back 3/back 5 for Chelsea for all the years you're there. Now there are 2 names I'd recommend putting on the shortlist. You've got Matthias de Ligt of Juventus, who would be the first choice. The only problem is the Dutch centre half is going to cost you a pretty penny and possibly a little bit too much as well. You'll notice here with Juventus, I was willing to spend practically my entire transfer budget on trying to get the former Ajax defender, but they weren't budging on £109.5 million. We just didn't have the cash at the time. De Ligt is only 21 years old. He's already one of the best centre-halves in the game at 85 overall, and he's got 90 potential as well. So you can see why I was so desperate to bring him to Stamford Bridge. Absolutely class defender, and he's just going to become one of the very best in the world, if not the very best in the world, as the seasons go by in the game. But the other option, as I couldn't afford De Ligt, was this guy, Jules Kounde, and I thought it was kind of realistic as well, because of course it was it was rumoured quite heavily that he was going to go to Stamford Bridge in the summer transfer window. Of course, it didn't happen in the end, but the Sevilla defender is only 22 years old, but already 83 overall, so very good indeed. He's got 89 potential, so grows 6 ratings and becomes one of the best centre-halves in the game. You don't have to spend too much money to get him either. I think it was a bit of an overspend on my part. I spent 60 million to get him. I just put a straight £60 million bid in, and Sevilla accepted it right off the bat. You can probably get him for a little bit cheaper than that, maybe £50 to £55 million if you're lucky, but even so, this guy, as we know, is all about the physical. He's absolutely rapid. He's got some decent strength. He's got high work rates. He's relatively comfortable on the ball as well, and defensively too. Really solid base stats, including 85 defensive awareness, 86 interceptions, 85 stand tackle, and 83 slide tackle as well. You will notice, as a centre-half, he's not the tallest. Now, he's 5'11", and by all means, that's not small whatsoever. But as a centre-back, you might be looking for someone that's around 6'1", 6'2", especially because you've got Azpilicueta as part of your back three, and he's also under 6 foot as well. So you've got centre-halves who aren't exactly the tallest, if you will, as part of your back three / back five. But if you can get this guy's physical stats up again, the pace, the jumping, and again, being so comfortable on the ball, that should make up for the lack of natural height that Kounde possesses. Regardless, fantastic centre-half, and again, kind of realistic as well, as he was touted to go to Chelsea in the summer transfer window. And one of the good reasons why opting to sign Jules over the Lit is that you won't be blowing your entire remaining transfer budget. You'll have a little bit money remaining to sign a couple more players, and I decided to get a new right back for Chelsea as well. Now, not necessary, no doubt about it. Of course, they've got Reece James as their star right wing back for many years to come. But there are 3 names on the shortlist if you want an understudy for Reece James, all English and all really good. You've got Max Aarons of Norwich, you've got Jayden Bogle of recently relegated Sheffield United. But the player I would recommend bringing in, is bringing back, and that's Tariq Lamptey, who, as we know, is a former Chelsea Youth Academy graduate. I believe Frank Lampard gave him his debut before he moved on to Brighton and Hove Albion. He really made a name for himself under Graham Potter at Brighton as a very good, young, talented right back. He's only 20 years old. I believe he has 84 or 85 potential, so whilst Reece James's potential is a bit higher, he's certainly someone that can compete with Reece James for game time as the years go by. And again, he's absolutely rapid, so quick off the mark with 92 acceleration. The one thing you will want to do though is I give him the defensive wingback development plan, just like with Theo Hernandez on the other side, is train that defensive work rate up from medium to high, so he'll have high work rates. And you'll notice with Lamptey, unlike Hernandez, his stamina is not the best. I think it's 72, and to be honest here, if you're a wingback in this Chelsea system, then you're going to need higher stamina than that, because you're going to be running up and down the pitch all game long. As you mentioned, no wide midfielders to help you out, so yeah, you're gonna need to be very effective on the offensive end and the defensive end, and have high stamina to cope with the physical demand on your body. So yeah, definitely I would recommend giving him the defensive wingback development plans, train that stamina, get his defensive stats up, but again, crucially as well, train the defensive work rate up from medium to high, so he'll have those high work rates, which I love so much on a wide midfielder / fullback / wingback. So yeah, Lamptey in, and again, former Chelsea youth grad coming back there. You'll notice we had quite a few bids here as well for a few more players. Jorginho got a bid. There was a bid for Trevor Chalobah, one for Loftus-Cheek. You might have noticed earlier on in the episode, Barcelona wanted him on a loan deal, which I found very interesting indeed. But after the season ticket money came in, despite the signing of Lamptey, we still had around £36 million to play with. So my final recommendation with Chelsea is to look for a third choice striker, because as we know, Romelu Lukaku returned from Inter Milan to Stamford Bridge in the summer transfer window. Great piece of business from Chelsea there, bringing him back. And of course, don't forget, he also qualifies to be a homegrown, trained by the club player as well, Lukaku, after the years he spent at Stamford Bridge coming in from Anderlecht as a teenager. Obviously, you've got Timo Werner on the bench, as we know, had a tough first season for Chelsea last season, but still the German does have a lot of talent. However, whilst Michy Batshuayi is out on loan, I would recommend someone for the future and a good young talent. My number one target would be this guy. It's Noni Madueke of PSV Eindhoven. If you've not seen this guy play, definitely watch him highlights of the guy on YouTube. He is such a raw talent right now playing in the Netherlands. He is English born. I believe he actually came through the Spurs youth setup. Might be wrong about that, or he was certainly on the books of Spurs, but you can bring him back for around 20 to 24 million pounds. We spent 22.5 million pounds to bring him back to England, and Noni is a great player, man. His dribbling is fantastic. He's got such high flair. 4-star skill moves, 4-star weak foot. He's absolutely rapid, great dribble of the ball, very agile indeed. And one of the best things about Madueke, being a left-footed player, player is you can either play him as an inside forward on the right as part of your 3-man spearheaded attack at the top, or you can retrain him to play as a striker. It will take a while for him to become a primary striker, though that is his secondary position, so he can play there, or you can have him again as an inside forward on that right hand side. The choice really is yours. Personally, he's probably better suited to that latter role, playing on that right hand side, stepping with the dribbling, the pace, the agility and the flair as well, and then shooting with that left foot. Or if you want, you can play him straight through the middle. It's up to you really, it's personal preference. But if you're going to play him as an inside forward on the right, had a little bit of money left over, so I thought why not sign one more player. There are two good young Sassuolo strikers in the game. You've got Scamacca and also Raspadori as well, both really decent young forwards with high potential. Unfortunately, Raspadori had moved on in the game, so we signed Scamacca, the alternative option, but this guy's still got mid to high 80 potential, and this guy's a giant as well. He's 22 years old, he's 74 overall, but he's very skillful. He's got 4-star skill moves. He's a decent player, to be fair, at holding the ball up, but also as well learning under Romelu Lukaku as a target man. That's the development plan I would give him personally. I think that's where it'd be at his best. That'll train the attacking work rate up to high. Then again, physically at 6'5", he'll be a monster for you in the air. So yeah, in the end with Chelsea, we sold 3 players in the summer transfer window for 46 mil, and we signed 5 players for 177 and a quarter. So in the end, it was a net loss of just over 131 million pounds. But when you think about the caliber of players we brought in here, Chelsea, again, as I mentioned earlier, they're such an interesting team. They're not in win now mode, but you can win now with them, but also you want to project the longevity in the future by bringing in some young talents. What you want is a couple of players to go into the first team squad and also some good youngsters for the future. That's exactly what we did with the likes of Lamptey and Madueke and Scamacca going into our reserves, but again, the likes of Theo, Hernandez and Jules going straight into our first team. You're looking for a mix and a blend of Chelsea, first team quality and youngsters for the future. So we simulated the end of the season after our first transfer window as always and see how we get on with Chelsea, and as you can see, as we simulate the end of the season, this was fascinating. I was watching it go by and I was thinking, right, there's no cup games. There's no European games. What's happened here? Well, as you can see, in the end, it was a highly successful season in the Premier League. My manager rating dropped to a very, very low 59. But in the end, with Chelsea, they were Premier League winners, finishing 2 points clear of Liverpool and 5 clear of the current holders, Manchester City. So Chelsea winning the Premier League. Amazing season, going one step further than the board asked. They said just top 4. In the end, we topped the whole Premier League. But I was fascinated what had happened with Chelsea because my manager rating was so low and I didn't see cup and European games. In the end, as you can see, Gabriel Jesus won the Golden Boot. Michail Antonio just behind, by the way, of Romelu Lukaku finishing 3rd in the Golden Boot race with 23. Christian Pulisic scored 15 league goals. Well, that was very impressive and got 10 assists as well. Runner-up in the race for the assist title as Jordan Pickford won the Golden Glove with 12 clean sheets this season. But as for the cups with Chelsea, this is fascinating. So Chelsea won the Super Cup at the start of the season for the simulation. They also won the Carabao Cup, beating QPR in a West London derby as the Championship side got to the final. Chelsea winning a domestic major honour. But in the FA Cup, as Man City won that in a Manchester derby, knocked out by Spurs in the quarter-final, 2-1 away at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So the board, not happy with that, asked us to win it, knocked out in the quarters. And in the Champions League, asked to reach the final, didn't do that. Didn't reach the semi-final. Didn't reach the quarter-final, and we were knocked out in the round of 16 by Barcelona 5-2 over 2 legs as Ronald Koeman's side knock us out in the first knockout. So we topped the group and we only had 1 loss in the entire 6 games, but knocked out in the last 16. That was quite disappointing. So in the end, you have to ask the question, was it a season of success for Chelsea or an underwhelming season? I mean, just really interesting, right? We won the Premier League, I didn't expect that, but we had a poor showing in the FA Cup and a very poor showing in the Champions League. By the way, Theo Hernandez growing 5 ratings in the first season. This is why you spend your money on Theo Hernandez. Trust me, guys, he's probably my favourite left-back in this year's FIFA. Yeah, such a fascinating season for Chelsea. Whether you call it a success or not, I guess it's up to you. But even though it doesn't count towards the objective, there was a major domestic double this season, winning the EFL Cup to go along with the Premier League as well. Personally, I'd say if you were to offer that to Chelsea fans at the start of the season, I think they'd take it personally. I think they'd take it. Yes, FA Cup let down, getting to the quarterfinals. Yes, Champions League failing to retain it, getting knocked out in the first knockout round. But the Premier League, first time since Mourinho, and of course as well an EFL Cup in the cabinet as well. I think that's a decent season, personally. And again, Chelsea, definitely a team I recommend for a career mode this year. They're such a fun team. They're not a win now type of team, but you can win now with them, as I mentioned earlier, and we saw during the simulation. And again, they're a side you can sort of rebuild, give a new club identity to, bring in some good young talent for the future, and for now in the likes of Jules and Theo Hernandez as well. And when you look to try and build an English core for the future as well, the likes of Tariq Lamptey coming back, and Noni Madueke as well, I definitely would recommend this Chelsea team for a career mode. Great kits, great stadium, good to rebuild, and also you can win now at the same time as well. It's a really fun team to use in career mode this year. But that was this episode of the Sign For, guys. A big thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, if you have enjoyed the episode and appreciate the transfer tips, then please do drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you for the next episode of Who to Sign For very soon.